Okay, we're live and we're on.
Stephanie, this is awesome!
The energy that just comes through. I love it. Look, I'm glowing. I'm red. I'm hot. We're in the middle of our winter, and you guys are in the middle of your summer, right?
Right, that's right.
But you're in the mountains, right? Is it not
Yes,
that
that's
hot
right.
there?
It is, but the good thing is it's not very much humidity.
Okay. Okay. So you're
Yeah,
not like sweaty and gross.
right, exactly.
Good, good. Thank you so much for carving out a chunk of your time and your brain for us for you to share with us. I love you and your work and Kathy's and everything you guys, your podcasts, because I know now she has the filter it through a brain cell. Where did that come from?
Right.
Um, oh my gosh. And that's been absolutely smashing it, as has your EQ podcast. We're going to get to all of that stuff because I know there's so many amazing parents here who will just really want to absorb what you have to share with us. So let me introduce you to people who are listening or watching in case they haven't seen your um, beard and tattoos and face before, which is you. I love that that's so you. So guys, let me sort of give you a little bit of background about who Noble is and what he does. His work is incredible. He is probably the least person that you would expect to talk about feelings and emotions. An uncharacteristic fight with his wife years ago revealed this glaring issue that he was kind of clueless when it came to handling emotions, if that's okay to say. And he's a West Point grad. He's a former infantry officer in the US Army. Now he is an emotional intelligence practitioner and he teaches emotional intelligence. He has a highly rated podcast, EQ GANGSTER, which goes with the whole him and brand and everything. He has an EQ Mafia membership and through corporate coaching and consulting and things like that. So don't let the big beard and the tattoos fool you, because he is pure energy, pure passion. He's got over 20 years of experience as an entrepreneur. I remember you once told me how many businesses you've started and grown and they've evolved and things like that. The international keynote speaker, and you really help all your clients, corporate clients, entrepreneurs, leaders, influencers, really to bring their emotions in, to honor and value them, and to know how to get them working for them, not against them. Did I do good? Yes. So that's about you. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's so good to see my homie, my Aussie homie, the legend.
Oh man, we first connected a couple of years ago, I feel like it was. And I don't know, ever since then I've just seen your stuff everywhere, what you talk about, what you post, the podcast. Um, how are you going? Like give us a update of everything.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. So you were right in the bio that I have I've had a couple corporate clients ask me, "Hey Noble, what are your credentials to teach and coach us on emotional health and emotional intelligence?" And I tell them, I said, "Look, I don't say this to try to intimidate you with all my PhDs." And they're like, "Wow, you've got multiple PhDs." I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, I've got a PhD in emotional neediness, a PhD in toxic positivity, a PhD in codependence, emotional codependence, a PhD in people pleasing addiction, like imposter syndrome, self sabotage, self condemnation, self hatred, depression. Like name the emotional dysfunction." And I've been doing it for 40 years, so I would say that's close to all kinds of PhDs in all these dysfunctional areas. And of course, they laugh and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so funny," and because a lot of them can relate. And so for me, what I've been doing is every day for the past 4 years, I have had a very intentional daily emotional fitness program. And I know a lot of folks are familiar with the concept of emotional intelligence. They may have maybe attended, some of your content or read a book on emotional intelligence or listened to a podcast, that's not the same as working on your own emotions and feelings. Very different. Head knowledge is very different than application. And so for me, that's one of the things that, I tell all my clients, my corporate clients, that look, I'm very much still every single day working on my own emotional issues and have a regimen, emotional fitness regimen every day. So don't think that I have arrived by any stretch of the imagination. I have been intentionally working on this stuff for 4 years. So what has happened is 2.5 years ago, I started the podcast, EQ Gangster, and YouTube channel. And it was as a result of, like you said, a fight with my wife. And, she said three things. One, you don't ever do that again. Number two, you've never done that before, which means three, you got more issues than Time magazine. And I was like, snap, you're right. So I went to counseling, and the counselor introduced me to two revolutionary new concepts called feelings and emotions. And I was like, well, what? They didn't issue me feelings and emotions in the Army. Like, what are those? And so that got me started on my emotional fitness journey. 2 years into my emotional fitness journey, all these big rocks in my life started to improve and change for the better. My faith, my marriage, my parenting, my finances, my fitness, my business, everything. And I'm like, wow, has this all been because of my emotional dysfunction? And now I'm finally taking ownership of my emotions and feelings. And now I'm seeing huge changes, like tangible, not like, because the goal of emotional intelligence is not, warm, fuzzy, let's hold hands, sing kumbaya, and bathe in essential oils and smell Skittle farts, right? That's not the goal of emotional intelligence, right? The goal is to be informed and learn how to read our emotional dashboard or our emotional balance sheet. It's not to, oh my gosh, the emotions are bad, or no. It's information, it's just data. And so started the podcast because I told my wife, I'm like, babe, I can't be the only emotionally clueless guy out there. There's got to be other nobles out there that have no concept of this world of emotions. So started the podcast, and that led to a number of folks reaching out and saying, Noble, like, the podcast is great, but can you work with our company? Can you work with our leaders, teaching us and coaching us on emotionally intelligent leadership? And so that kind of started the whole, executive coaching business. So now I've got probably 5 or 6 corporate clients, a few multi-billion-dollar companies, another $300 million international company, and then a couple smaller companies, and just working with their leaders on how to become more emotionally intelligent leaders. Because one of the things I see all the time is emotionally healthy leaders create emotionally healthy cultures and organizations, which lead to and create and maximize and optimize outcomes, results, and productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's been going on.
That's so much stuff. And that's massive. Like, these, not just working with the executives or the leadership team in the company, that flows down, that filters down to the people who are working in those teams. And those people, more often than not, are parents as well. So they bring it home from their workplace, where you're infusing this knowledge and this awareness. And then I'm assuming, that it's going to come out into the relationship with their partner or spouse, kids. Like, we talk about, right, emotional intelligence for anyone, any age, anywhere, not just in really the corporate space where it is huge, but there's this, it's like a sphere.
What I love about EQ is it impacts us not just professionally, but personally as well. I've got a gentleman, a software engineer and entrepreneur from actually Sydney, Australia, in the EQ Mafia. And he's been with us for the last year and a half, 2 years. We've had the EQ Mafia. I guess it's been about a year now. And one of the things that he said about EQ is, he said, Noble, his name is Alex, and he wrote a book called Identity. It's a really good book. And one of the things he says is that EQ just makes us better human beings. It's like the study of becoming better human beings. And in the world of parenting, a powerful quote is, if you don't work on and face your emotional issues, your friends, family, and coworkers will be forced to.
Mm-hmm.
And emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. And if we want to raise emotionally healthy children, we some of us try to, with all our emotional dysfunction, try to raise emotionally healthy children. One of the most critical things we can do for our kids is get emotionally healthy ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the most, because it's easy for me to say, Stephanie, you need to get healthy emotionally and not do any changing myself, right? But that's, if you're my kid, you're going to see through that immediately, right? As those kids get older, you can't fool kids. They know, they're like, the music and the lyrics don't match up,
Yeah.
right? I'm recognizing, I don't know any Australian bands, but like let's say it's a hip hop beat and heavy metal lyrics, and it doesn't go together, right? It doesn't work. And so the most important thing I think we can do as adults, as parents, is take ownership and responsibility of our own emotional health and fitness, so that we can model and teach the lessons that we're learning as parents, not the whole do as I say, not as I do. This is another powerful thing, is that what happened to us as children is not our fault, but it is our responsibility to heal from and grow through. Not our fault what happened to us as children, because every single one of us, our emotional foundation comes from our childhoods. Lottie dottie, everybody. And so as long as we realize, hey, what happened to me as a kid is not my fault, whatever abuse we got, or emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, spiritual, whatever it was, it wasn't our fault, but it is our responsibility to heal from and grow through those things, so that we can be the best parents we can be and create the right emotional environment and culture for our children to grow up in.
Yeah, I love that. So how does one use emotional intelligence to help with that, that this is the way I grew up. This is like, we didn't say I love you or show emotions, we put them away, or it was a sign of weakness, or it was kids were being manipulative and coercive and getting what they want. And, that whole, how do you see emotional intelligence with maybe the people that you're coaching and working with, undoing or unlearning some of that stuff that stuff is like programmed in there, isn't it?
100%, absolutely. Well, in fact, there's a book I'm reading right now that is so powerful. I'm getting so much out of it. It's called How We Love.
Hmm.
How We Love by Milan and Kay Yurkovich. Discover your love style, enhance your marriage. And they've got some phenomenal insights about this. So this is one of the magic questions that they ask, when they're doing their speaking engagements and stuff, is, um, do you remember being comforted as a child by your parents? And what was that experience like? Right? So they and from that, because most 75% of adults cannot remember being comforted as children by our parents. 75%. There's consequences for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's consequences as adults when we weren't we if we never experienced comfort during the most formative time in our lives. Guess what? That's gonna play out. One of the things I like to say on my podcast all the time is, unaddressed emotional issues don't get better over time, they actually compound.
Mm-hmm.
Unaddressed emotional issues don't get better over time, they actually compound. So how does emotional intelligence and emotional health help? It's game changer. So when I started to discover, one of the most powerful exercises that I have done in my last 4 years of my emotional fitness program is to I call it the discovering the emotional origin story of either an emotion or behavior that is repeating unproductively
Mm-hmm.
or unhealthily in my life. So let's say I have, out of my 100 behaviors and 100 themes or trends of emotions that I feel on a fairly regular basis, let's say 20% of them, and I haven't done a habit audit in a little while, so I could be off on this, but let's say 20% of my behaviors are unhealthy or unproductive.
Mhm.
Each one of those 20% has an emotional origin story. So if I can figure out the emotional origin story of where are those coming from, what's the emotional reason, what's going on emotionally behind these behaviors that I am doing that's unproductive or unhealthy. And a lot of times, here's one that I'm doing right now. This is actually in my podcast episode dropping on Thursday. So I told you about my daughter's a teenager. She's 14 and she has entered the phase where she is wanting lots of space and boundaries. And I am the Mr. Cuddles of the planet, right? Like now, before, when I was emotionally needy, it was not coming from a healthy place. So I would overwhelm my wife and my daughter with giving them way too many cuddles and kisses and hugs and stuff, right? And now, thankfully, as I've gotten healthier emotionally, now I can honor my daughter's boundaries. But she wants a lot of space, like doesn't like to the point of not wanting me to come near her, right? Not, like I can't put my arm around her. I can't even give her a little hug. Now, some of that we're kind of working through a little bit too, because, well, so because it's like I want to honor and respect her boundaries. I want to, like I want to. In fact, there have been times where I will intentionally reach out to touch her so that she can show me that she wants space, so that she can see me honor her boundaries. Because I want her to know, as she gets older, I want her to know how a man is supposed to respect and honor her boundaries. Because if I don't honor and respect her boundaries, guess what? That's going to be programmed to her. And now when a guy doesn't respect and honor her boundaries, she's not going to know what to do. But now, because I've been working on this for the last, 4 years now, she knows when she tells me, hey, Poppy, I don't want a hug. Hey, Poppy, don't touch me. Hey, no sweat, girl, got you. No sweat. Just know that I love you. Okay, sounds good. Just don't touch me. I got you. No sweat.
Yeah.
Right? So I want her to know that not the second time she tells me, not the third time, not the fifth time she tells me, the first time she tells me, hey, Poppy, not feeling a hug right now. Absolutely no sweat. I got you. So that she knows what right looks like. So the first time some chucklehead dude tries to violate her boundaries, she's going to know exactly, oh, no, the red flags will go off. Bro, you better back off, right? This is not how I roll, right? And she will feel comfortable and confident in expressing her boundaries. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but the point is, so here's how emotional health and emotional intelligence is life changing for as a parent and as an adult. So my one of my coping mechanisms and survival mechanisms that I learned, I don't know, many years ago, if somebody I loved started to treat me poorly, I would immediately cut them off emotionally. Like it's like you don't exist to me anymore. If I felt like you were rejecting me in some way, if you're a family member of mine, you're a friend of mine, we're homies, whatever, and you cut me off or like, hey Noble, like, hey dude, I don't want to see you right now or whatever. Because rejection is my emotional kryptonite for my personality, and because of my emotional neediness that I had for 4 decades. If I felt rejection, that is my emotional kryptonite, and I will immediately cut you out of my life emotionally. Well, guess what? Because my daughter is getting so confident expressing her boundaries, which I like, I have caught myself over this past week cutting her off emotionally as a protection mechanism and a survival mechanism to protect myself so she can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not good. That's not healthy. I don't want to be emotionally unavailable for my daughter just because she's going through her young adulthood transition right now. I still need to be safe and vulnerable and transparent and present and emotionally agile to handle whatever emotions she's going. being a teenager is no joke, right? It's tough. And so I need to be available and keep myself available and present for her, even when she's doing, hey, Poppy, I don't want any hugs or I don't want any kisses. I still need to grow in my, and so here's all that to say is I am learning right now today as we speak to change my emotional responses and not come from my place of survival that I used back many, many years ago during my childhood through my adulthood, and learning how to choose a different response. Because another big lesson that I've learned is I am not my emotions.
Mm.
My emotions are not my identity. Not my identity. It's so if I'm feeling, man, that kind of hurt when she said, Poppy, don't hug me, don't give me kisses, that kind of hurt me. I don't have to, I can choose to respond differently than how I feel, right? Because I used to say, well, I am angry. Well, that's an identity statement. What
Yep.
I need to say is, I feel hurt, or I feel discouraged, or I feel joyful, or whatever, because our emotions change all the time. So for me to say, I am hurt, I am angry, I am upset, that's an identity statement. That's a whole nother ball game. So anyway, emotional intelligence is a game changer, and it's changing my parenting as we speak based on the phase of life that my daughter's at.
Wow, so many nuggets. Ugh. I'm trying to like type and just absorbing. I always absorb so much when I talk to you. How would you, maybe you've already thought about this, how would you have dealt with Elena when in these years, in the last week, without the emotional intelligence, without that self-awareness, without that ability to separate yourself and what's going on with you, with her and her behavior and her, I'm not ready, or I don't want that. What would that have looked like? Have you thought about that?
Oh, so it would have been soul crushing, like so much so, because here's the deal. Just 4 years ago, I was an emotional 5-year-old. So how does a 5-year-old respond when they get rejected by a parent, by a sibling, right? It's massive deal. It's not like, oh, hey, you moved my toy from one side of the table to the other side. It's a massive, deep. And so for me, again, when I was emotionally 5 years old, 4 years ago, and she had done that, it would reach the level of my soul, because rejection was a reflection. Now, this is when I was emotionally 5. Rejection was a reflection of my identity, of my value, of my worth. So when my daughter said, hey, Poppy, don't hug me or don't kiss me, for me, what she was telling me, the story that I told myself of what she told me is, so when she said, Poppy, don't hug me or kiss me, how I interpreted that in my head is, I must be worthless. I
Mm.
must have no value. I must be a waste of skin and a waste of oxygen. And it would be soul crushing. And out of my emotional 5-year-old self, I would react like a 5-year-old, and I would throw a tantrum. But a tantrum when you're 40 is very scary compared to a tantrum when you're 5 years old. And
Mhm.
so I would have yelled at her. I would have gotten very angry and aggressive. And I, I can't even tell you how thankful I am to God for putting me on this emotional healing journey and emotional growth journey, so that I can recognize, again, self-awareness is a huge part of emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And now, not that I'm totally self-aware, I'm getting more self-aware. I'm still working on it every day, but I'm so thankful that I at least have been able to recognize, ooh, Noble, you're shutting yourself off from your daughter emotionally these past couple days. This is not right. I need to do some emotional work in this area so that because this is the worst time for me to cut myself off from my daughter during these teenage years. She needs me to be more emotionally available than she ever has in her life before. And so I just thank God that I am at this space where I can recognize my failures and my shortcomings and my weaknesses so that I can be intentional at working on and work through and take ownership and responsibility of these areas that directly impact, not just my wife, but my daughter and her future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's massive. Do you ever wish that you started or that you learned about this stuff when she was little, when your daughter was young? Or I know we can't change and we go, I went through
100%.
everything because that's but I have conversations with so many parents of teenagers, toddlers, people who are about to be parents. And I do secretly think, oh my God, thank goodness they're not even here yet, or they're 1 or they're 3. Because then it's almost like your kids don't know any different because do you know what I mean? It is what it is. But
Yeah, that's right. 100%.
Yeah. So anyway, oh man, we could talk all day. I'm going to have you back on. I've got to, and I have. We've talked in the past, but oh my gosh, I don't think I can flood the Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids community enough with you. I think, I've seen some of the beautiful comments. I'm trying to reply back to some of them on my screen. It's not working. But Lauren has said that she absolutely loves this. Such powerful stuff. Love the boundaries. It makes so much sense. And she has a question. Can I chuck a question at you? Okay.
Of course.
She said, would you say that you placed all of your worth on what others thought of you or how others felt about you? I'm assuming the pre EQ Noble.
Oh, for 4 decades, I was a people pleaser addict. So that is how like when I say I made every single decision to get validation and approval from Stephanie, from Frank, from Bob, from Susie, from Henry, from Heather, like every single decision I made was now I wasn't aware of it. Again, I had no self-awareness prior to 4 years ago. Zero. My emotional vocabulary, I knew about 4 or 5 emotional words. Angry, happy, sad, and mad was like all I knew. So that's, I think it was Lauren, you said 100% that is true. I lived for the validation, approval, and affirmation of everyone else around me. And here's what's crazy, even strangers. How nuts is that? Like, I don't even know these people, and I'm trying to get validation from them.
That was
right.
nice.
So anyway, yes, I used to do that.
Yes, that's a big fat yes.
And so this is powerful. This is super powerful. This is another huge, I call it proof of growth of my journey, of how I know I've grown. One of the huge proof of growth for me, after being a people pleaser addict for almost 4 decades, praise and hate don't impact me anymore like it used to. Praise, if someone said, oh my gosh, Noble, you're amazing sauce. Oh my gosh, you're the greatest thing since ice cubes. It would fill my sails for a month. Oh my gosh, Stephanie said I'm amazing, so I must be amazing. And then let's say a week later, Stephanie said, Noble, I've changed my mind. You suck like a Kirby vacuum. It'd be soul crushing. It was soul crushing. So I would ride on this wave of whatever Stephanie and again Scott and whoever else, whatever you thought of me, I would ride that wave, and there's no way to live. So that's one way I know that I've grown, is now praise and hate, they're not a reflection of my identity of who I am anymore. Before they were. Now it doesn't. If someone says, hey, Noble, you're great, Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that feedback. If someone says, Noble, you suck like you're lower than a pregnant ant, hey, thank you so much for your input. I appreciate that, but it doesn't impact me anymore.
No. Mm. It doesn't, you know, pierce through that armor deep down. Ooh, is this stuff that you share on the podcast and with the EQ Mafia membership?
Absolutely.
Tell us a bit more about that, because I know we've got to finish up in a minute. Guys, I'm going to put Noble's links where you can get in touch with him, where you can reach out, where you can ask for support or for coaching or for the podcast link. I'll put all that stuff in the description when we hop off here on Facebook. It's also going to go up on YouTube, so you guys will be able to watch this later. But let us know, where do you want people to go to find out more about emotional intelligence, the impact emotional fitness can have on them and their family, their career and stuff like that?
Sure. So the easiest spot would be EQ Gangster on the podcast, any of the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, all the major platforms, YouTube as well, EQ Gangster. My website is eqgangster.com. And then for those folks that want to be a part of like an emotional fitness community, that it's an equipping, encouraging, empowering community of people that are actively working on their emotional health and emotional fitness. That's what I have the EQ Mafia for. And I've got probably 50 to 100 hours of video content and workbook content in the membership. And then I've got twice a month, I go live in the Mafia and we meet live on Zoom. And one of those 2 times a month, I do training on some aspect of emotional intelligence. And then I'll also do an actual coaching session with somebody in front of the group so that everyone can kind of learn from watching that coaching session. The other time of the month, the second time of the month, I typically bring in a subject matter expert to talk about an aspect of emotional intelligence as well. And all those speakers and all that content is all available anytime somebody joins the Mafia. And they can quit anytime they want to join the Mafia. They can just join 1 month at a time. It doesn't matter. It's just for people who really want to grow and take their emotional fitness to the next level.
Awesome. I remember coming on, it was probably a few months ago towards the start of the year or so, and spoke for the community. That was amazing. That was a special group of people there. Tell us about your free EQ 101 course, where people can get that.
Yeah, so for folks that maybe are new to their emotional fitness journey or emotional fitness program, on EQ, on EQGangster.com, there's one of the tabs they can click on, and it will be a free EQ quiz, like an overview of it's like an introduction to emotional intelligence on kind of an introduction, a nice kind of onboarding to kind of what emotional intelligence and emotional health is kind of all about, some of the different aspects, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management in that EQ 101. Again, it's free, and it's about an hour long, and it's got some really good information in there.
Wow, that sounds like awesome sauce. I invite everyone to go on. I think, like you said, Noble, it's eqgangster.com, and then find the EQ 101 course. That is something that I just think everyone go and jump on once we put the links, have a go. Just take the first step is what I always say to people. If you're a little bit curious, or if you think, what's this stuff about? That is an awesome place to start. Is there any last little thought or comment or story that you want to leave us with before we jump off?
So you are worth the effort, energy, intention, and attention necessary to becoming your best version of yourself. You are worth it. Your children are worth it. Your extended family, your coworkers, getting the best version of you. The impact that you will have on yourself and the world around you by getting emotionally healthier is going to be priceless. You are not even aware of the impact that getting healthier emotionally is going to have on your own life, and how it's going to open doors in your own life, and also, and therefore, the lives of those around you. You are worth becoming the most healthy emotionally version of yourself as possible.
Oh, I love that. You are worth it. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and your heart and your passion and your wisdom. I think everyone, who's watching or will watch the recording after this is just going to be blown away. So many nuggets. Like, I couldn't write them down fast enough. I'm going to have to go back and watch the recording. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you and your work and your family, your beautiful family. Thank you for all that you share with us. So huge gratitude.
And Stephanie, likewise. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for all the content and the love that you give to your audience, because I'm part of your audience. I'm learning, as you share your lessons and insights and stuff. And, you've been a key aspect and contributor to my own growth as well. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you had to do in yourself so that the rest of your audience, like me, can get the best version of you.
You are very welcome. Thank you. That is very kind. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Noble. And we will see you soon for another interview. Thank you, guys.